Humans tend to wait for things to get really bad, for things to get so uncomfortable to the point that they can't go on living their lives as usual. Humans tend to wait for crisis, chaos, tragedy, illness, in order to get down to looking at who they are, what they're doing, how they're feeling, what they know or believe, in order to change. And we tend to do this because change is so difficult. And it's not because of the physical barriers of where we're at right now versus where we're looking to go. It's because of the information and the signs we've been exposed to for generations. Because to finally change your reality, you need to understand what is possible for you as a human being, what the nature of reality actually is, who you are, where you stand in all this. And all of these are concepts that have been misunderstood and not taught correctly by institutions and by society in general. And they have produced a limited mindset in us. Ultimately, we all have the same desire, which is to live life as an idealized version of who you are and who you believe you can be. And I know you've tried this endlessly to embody your highest self. And let me tell you, all of your past downfalls come down to one major cause, which is that your thoughts have consequences so great that they can literally create your reality. But in order to understand why our thoughts have such power, we need to look back at the belief that the mind and matter are separate from each other. And the first thing I need you to understand is that these two concepts are not separate, and that your subjective mind has an effect on your objective world. And yes, this is what you've heard in all those manifestation tutorial videos, and you might have already embraced this idea, but subconsciously your mind is still skeptical because you haven't understood what is behind this. And this unconscious mental barrier is what truly keeps you from making a change. For many years it was believed that people could do little things with their actions, let alone their thoughts. The earliest physicists divided the world into matter and thought, completely separate from each other. And so our view of the world has been shaped by this mind-matter duality. Now since then, our understanding has evolved enormously, now believing that we are part of an invisible field of energy containing all possible realities, and this field of energy responds to our thoughts and feelings. So in order to understand this, we need to dive a little bit deeper into the science and philosophy that have shaped our thoughts and beliefs. Connecting the inner and outer world has always been a hard challenge for scientists and philosophers, although we might agree that the external world, the world of matter, creates consequences that affect our thoughts and mind. We still think that it's impossible that our minds produce any significant consequences that affect solid things in our reality. René Descartes initially proposed the mechanist model of the universe, which states that the universe is controlled by predictable laws. When it comes to human thought, however, he thought that the mind was too complex, too variable for it to fit into these laws. Essentially, he couldn't unify the physical world to the mind, so he came to the conclusion that the mind was not a subject of these laws. He essentially established this division between these two, so society has learned to accept that as an understanding. Now, after Descartes came Newton, and he solidified this concept of the universe as a machine producing a set of laws that state that humans can predict, determine, and calculate exactly how the physical world operates, further perpetuating this division. And essentially what this resulted in was a mindset that the physical reality operated in these principles, that humans had little influence on the outcomes. So all reality was predetermined. And this is why you struggle. This is why you think your thoughts are irrelevant. For a long period of time, energy was seen as a force to move objects, to change the physical state of matter. This is not all it is. Energy is what makes up everything that exists, and it is responsive to mind. After Descartes and Newton came Einstein about 200 years later. He completely revolutionized this mindset. He came up with this famous equation, E equals mc squared, which essentially suggested that energy and matter were interchangeable and they were essentially the same thing. Now, fundamental components of our physical world are both waves, which is energy, and particles, which is physical matter. And this depends on the mind of the observer. We're going to dive a little bit deeper on this, but essentially this is when quantum physics emerged. It was soon discovered that the model of the atom, electrons can present themselves as a particle in one instant, as a wave of probability in another, and the next completely disappear. And what was discovered through quantum physics is that the person observing these particles affects its behavior of energy and matter. Particles did not manifest in reality until they were observed. This is called the observer effect. At the subatomic level, energy responds to mindful attention and becomes matter. Everything in the physical universe is made up of subatomic particles. When these are not being observed, they exist in their wave state of probability. Think about this for 1 second. Think about what this means and what it extends to. If your mind can influence the appearance of an electron, then it can influence the appearance of any possibility, as long as you observe it. This is what's behind the phrase, where your attention goes, energy flows. And Joe Dispenza described this perfectly in his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. He uses all this science, all this neuroscience and psychology to explain manifestation. Essentially, you can use these principles, the observer effect, to change your reality. And now you know what's behind all this, because this is not some type of magic thing, it's real. And you can implement it in your life to change your reality and embody the person you want to be, create the reality that you want. Where your attention goes, energy flows, and your material world is affected.